So a few years ago, my friend and I, Cindy Provost with the Calgary Police Services, had a really great conversation, and that conversation was around going to a citizenship ceremony. At the citizenship ceremony, we talked to a number of people, or she talked to a number of people that were new immigrants, so just arrived into Canada a few years ago, or now Canadian citizens, and had the opportunity to meet with Indigenous people and learn a little bit more about reconciliation. The interesting piece around that we see with all of our newcomer populations is that they're usually quite shocked. They're shocked to learn that they came to Canada, often escaping things, wanting to find democracy, freedom, freedom of choice, a better quality of life. And then they hear that Canada had this history where we haven't necessarily been good to all of our people, and especially our First Peoples, and continue to do so in many different ways. There are places in Canada where Indigenous people don't have free running water, right? So those kind of things are very shocking to the system and can actually be very traumatic. So we wanted to respond to the calls to action for truth and reconciliation. So there's two specific of those that speak specifically to working with newcomer communities. So newcomer communities understand the entire history of reconciliation and what that means with the Indigenous communities. So our hope in bringing this forward was the Centre for Newcomers. We reached out to some of our colleagues in the settlement field, so Calgary Bridge Foundation for Youth and Calgary Immigrant Education Society. We all work very closely in the Northeast, where the majority of our newcomers do end up living, especially as they first come to the city. And we reached out to our Indigenous friends and community members as well. So we have Tim Fox with the Calgary Foundation, Cindy Provost with the Calgary Police Services, so Michelle Robinson with 12 CSI in Forest Lawn, and Michelle Stanners and everybody at Making Treaty 7. So we have a number of different partners that are all coming together, along with the provincial government, the federal government, the municipal government, all wanting to participate and really be key stakeholders in what we're doing, to really talk about what does it mean to provide education for newcomers on Indigenous ways of being and Indigenous culture. And what we're finding through that process is that there's more similarities than there are differences between newcomers and Indigenous communities. Primarily, newcomers come from collective cultures, and primarily our Indigenous communities are collective cultures as well. So very family-oriented, very community-based, very collaborative, and so being able to bring those communities together gives us the opportunity to find natural peer support, to be able to find natural friendships and allyships, and be able to also start talking about other things like commerce and the economy, and how we can help create a better quality of life for everyone involved. So my outcome that I'd like to see after our event, our launch event, is to continue that dialogue, to have more people, whether you consider yourself a newcomer, whether you consider yourself an Indigenous person or a settler or anything in between, to be able to come together and have those dialogues and really be able to speak to what it means to truly be Canadian in this context, with all these multiple views coming together, so that we can truly create that country that everybody wants when they come here.